They say if you listen long enough to the static, you're gonna start to hear voices. Not metaphorically, literally. You're gonna hear words, you're gonna hear names, you're gonna hear fragments. And in the world of paranormal investigation, few tools have stirred as much fascination and as much controversy as the Spirit Boxx. Hello, seekers, and welcome to a new series that I am calling, Do You Know Where Your Ghost Hunting Techniques Come From? For those not in the spectral know, here is a quick definition of the Spirit Boxx. A Spirit Boxx is a device that sounds like it's scanning through a radio's white noise to pick up voices in the chaos, thus allowing contact, supposedly, with the other side. But this isn't just some sort of spooky gadget that was whipped up for your typical ghost TV drama. Not that I would know anything about that. The Spirit Boxx has a strange and very specific origin story, and it didn't start in a haunted house. It actually started in the garage. The year was 2002. Frank Sumption, a Colorado-based radio hobbyist and former Navy serviceman, built an electronic box using a hacked Radio Shack, RIP Radio Shack, digital tuner. His goal, to allow real-time communication with spirits by sweeping rapidly across AM or FM frequencies, creating a fragmented stream of broadcast radio. He called it Frank's Box. Now, Frank believed the blueprint for this box was not his own. He claimed it came to him through a kind of mental download, what he described as a psychic dictation from entities in another realm. You may be laughing about this concept, but this is not the first time such claims have been made regarding the other side trying to communicate with us. Might I point out Philip K. Dick's pink light of information claims. Check it out. It is mind-blowing. But I digress. Whether Sumption's instructions for the Spirit Boxx were divine inspiration, what matters is this. He documented his work, he released the schematics, and people listened. Frank never mass-produced these boxes. He built them by hand and gave them away for free. And yet, despite that, they spread. It grew. People were intrigued. And by the mid-2000s, paranormal investigators were modifying Radio Shack tuners in mass, creating what became known as shack hacks. Now, the logic was the same. Force a radio to sweep continuously, stopping only long enough to catch blips of audio. You got a syllable here, a phrase there, or even a pattern of speech coming through the static. Some believed that if spirits could manipulate electronics, which many investigators believe is a strong possibility, including myself, this rapid-fire static gave them raw material to work with. The idea behind Frank's box, however, was not born in a vacuum. There was some precedent that had been laid out even before Frank started working on these blueprints. Back in the 1950s and 60s, pioneers like Friedrich Jurgensen and Konstantin Raudive had already popularized the idea of electronic voice phenomenon, or, as you've probably heard, EVPs for short. Jurgensen, a Swedish film producer, first noticed the unexplained voices while recording birdsong back in 1959. He believed that they were voices of the dead. Specifically, he claimed to recognize the voice of his deceased father calling his name. Now, this deeply personal experience, combined with his interest in both science and mysticism, convinced him that he had captured a genuine form of spirit communication. He continued experimenting and interpreting the voices as evidence that the dead could use audio technology to speak with the living. Now, Raudive, a Latvian psychologist, built on this idea, conducting thousands of recordings and publishing them in his 1971 book, Breakthrough. He claimed to have documented over 70,000 messages. Raudive was inspired after hearing Jurgensen speak about his EVP recordings and became convinced that there was a genuine phenomenon worth investigating. As a trained psychologist, he believed that the human voice could potentially carry beyond death and leave impressions on magnetic tape. Now, he approached this work with a quasi-scientific rigor, using controlled environments, multiple microphones, and cross-verification with other listeners. His goal wasn't just to prove survival after death, but to also establish a repeatable method of communication with the beyond. What's notable is that both Jurgensen and Raudive were influenced by spiritualism and believed that technology, particularly audio tape, offered a modern medium for spirit contact. So in many ways, Frank Sumption was simply continuing that legacy, but doing it with a bit of a DIY twist. Now, Frank passed away back in 2014, but his invention did not die with him. Spirit boxes have definitely evolved and stuck around. There are commercial versions flooding the market, and these new models do everything from sweep multiple frequency bands to checking for temperature changes to adding noise filters. Meanwhile, we've got app developers that have launched mobile spirit boxes themselves. Now, some of these use real audio sweeps and others manipulate sound banks with random number algorithms. I myself have used them on occasion when I was working on Expedition X. And while they're not my favorite, they are good to have in a pinch or for backup. So no matter where the physical spirit boxes or the digital apps are pulling their data from, it all still relies on one thing, and this is important. It relies on the human ability to make sense of the noise. So what is the theory behind why any of this would actually work in the first place? We did talk about it really briefly before up at the top, but here's more of a full breakdown. It's a bit heady regarding the theory and the practice behind how and why this works. According to believers, the Spirit Box provides raw, disordered audio that spirits can then manipulate, either by influencing electromagnetic fields, embedding themselves in the ambient energy of radio waves, or by selectively timing their responses to coincide with existing sound fragments. The idea is that spirits don't produce sound the way that living people do. Instead, they actually influence energy. The sweeping motion of the sound box provides a constantly shifting stream of noise like an audio sandbox. So in theory, a spirit might shape or interrupt that signal to produce meaningful words or phrases. Now, this belief is rooted in the broader idea of instrumental transcommunication, or ITC for short. It is a term that was first popularized in the 1970s by researchers like Ernst Sinkowski, a German physicist who compiled and analyzed reports of spirit communication through devices such as radios, televisions, and early computers. Now, ITC extends the logic of EVP into real-time interaction across a broader range of electronic mediums. The core idea is that spirits, if they exist, might be able to manipulate energy fields and electronics in subtle ways. While EVP focused on capturing voices after the fact, ITC proposes that those same entities might actively influence or embed themselves into electronic signals as they occur, creating a dynamic, if unpredictable, form of communication. The Spirit Box within that framework then becomes a kind of open channel, a dynamic soundscape that allows subtle, low-energy manipulations to be heard more clearly than they would have been in a fixed or silent environment. Skeptics argue that spirit boxes are a prime example of auditory pareidolia. Pareidolia. I think I said that right. That's our tendency to hear meaningful patterns in random sounds. We hear not because a ghost whispered it, but because our brain is hunting for language patterns within the nonsensical noise. And when we're in an emotionally heightened state, say in a dark, potentially haunted house, those interpretations get even more vivid. There's also the issue of a thing called radio bleed. Even in sweep mode, you're still catching fragments of local radio. You get a lyric, a sports announcer, a weather warning. Anything can pop in and get interpreted as a message from the beyond. It has happened to me. I have done that plenty of times. But despite all of these potential margins for error, people keep using them. Because ghost hunting is just as much about feeling haunted as it is about proving it. The Spirit Box provides that real-time, visceral experience of a conversation. You ask a question and something gives you an answer. Even if it's just a flicker of noise, it's still interactive. It invites belief and it invites engagement. But there's also a deeper cultural thread here too that we should look at. The Spirit Box is a modern incarnation of a very old impulse. People have been trying to talk to the dead for forever, whether it's through mediums, through pendulums, through automatic writing, and yes, even through machines. Thomas Edison was rumored to have tried building a spirit phone. Whether he actually did it or not is up for debate, but the idea has stuck. And now, with apps and live streams, Spirit Box sessions can go viral. A TikTok video catches a whisper. A YouTube streamer captures a chilling phrase. A Jessica Chobot hears somebody talking to her in a cornfield in the middle of the night, and that goes up on cable television. Audiences join in, listening in real time, commenting on what they hear. Interpretation has then become crowdsourced. So where does that leave us in all of this? Is the Spirit Boxx a genuine tool for paranormal research, a psychological mirror, or just simply a theater prop? Or could it be all three? Personally, I think it can be all three. It is a valid tool to help gather information when you use it along with, and this is key, the other tools you are using at your disposal during an investigation. I never think you should completely rely on just one. If you are out, however, wandering the graveyard at night for fun with your friends, it is a quick and easy option to put yourself in the right mind space to have a good time, and sometimes that's all you need. And as for TV, it is a great way to involve your audience through the screen and make them feel like they're part of the ghost investigation as well. So with that being said, thank you for listening to this episode of Occulture Shock. I'm your host, Jessica Chobot. If you liked today's episode, please leave a review, share it with your friends and family. And if you would like to support the show, make sure and check out our Patreon over at patreon.com/Occulture Shock podcast. There are plenty of tiers so that everyone is included. Until next time, keep that radio dial open and your ears sharp because you never know who may be talking to you. It's probably me, but whatever. You never know. Toodles.